Hello and welcome to my channel. This has been such a long time coming and I'm so excited that we are finally here getting to share our lives with you. So first things first, hit that subscribe button, give us a like, give us a comment on what you want to see, but we are really going to focus on travel on this channel, probably a little bit of lifestyle content, what it's like living overseas, maybe a little bit of military content if we're lucky, who knows, but let us know what you want to see. And without further ado, I'm going to hop into this. So we are going to do a Q&A today, a little bit of get to know me, get to know this lovely guy sitting next to me, and answer a few of the most popular questions that we have been having from our friends and family. So I do have questions in front of me that we'll go through, but first I want to introduce myself. I am Kenna. Obviously it's my channel, Kenna K. I grew up in the vast farmland of Wisconsin. Go Pack Go. Went to college at University of Minnesota. Go Gophers. I know, some of you are like, how can she be a Packers fan but not a Badgers fan? And she's their rival, a Gophers fan? Well, all I have to say is better dead than red. Sorry, family. So that being said, after college, I moved down to Tampa because I am not a fan of snow and winter and the cold. So the Sunshine State called me, and that is where I met this guy. Little did I know he was in the Air Force, and that is where our journey began. So, who the heck are you?
I'm Ty, originally from Tucson, Arizona. That's where I was raised, so that's home for me. Sports is a big part of my life, so that led me to Colorado, where I played football at the United States Air Force Academy. Don't have any real military background, but that was my introduction to the military and the Air Force way of life. I absolutely fell in love with it once I got there. Made a lot of memories, a lot of really strong relationships during my 5 years there. So after I graduated, got stationed out at MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa. Right, so put two and two together. That's where I met my beautiful wife.
Awesome. So one of our most popular questions for those who don't know us and know our background is, how did we meet? I'm going to let you tell this story because I think it's kind of funny.
Yeah, there's definitely a longer version of this story, but like I said, after my 5 years of college, I did get stationed out in Tampa, Florida, where Kenna had been living for a couple years already. The short version of this is that I was having problems finding a place to live, right? So went apartment searching for days, wasn't really working out. So finally I was walking around and I saw this building in downtown Tampa, Florida. Walked in, hospitality was great, ended up signing a lease there. And I was enjoying my freedom really for the first few weeks. So for those who don't know, life at a military academy is restrictive, we'll put that lightly. So for those first few weeks, I was enjoying having my own spot, no one coming to check in on me, right? I was on my own time, right? So after a few weeks of that, I was like, this is cool, but I should probably go out and meet some people, right? That's normal, young guy, new city. Florida, middle of August, very hot, extremely hot. And just about every apartment building, I would say, has a pool. So naturally, young people, hot weather, pools equals pool parties. So after a few weeks of me being there, look down and it's popping down there. So I wander down there and I see a pretty hot blonde from across the pool, and I shot my shot. Is the basic way to put it, right? But I swam over, started a conversation with her. Next thing I know, we're sitting by the pool 4 or 5 hours later, still talking.
I think you're forgetting a major part about how I got you to agree to our first date.
That's fair. All right, I'll tell the story. So we're both huge football junkies. That was one of our very first things that we kind of connected on. And deeper than just watching football, right? We're both huge fantasy football junkies. I didn't know this at the time when we first met, right? That she was as into it as I am.
Maybe more.
But she had a fantasy draft the next day. And, we had just met. Maybe she didn't want to seem too eager, right? I was down, but She was like, "Hey, do you mind maybe coming down to my apartment to help me out with my fantasy drafts? I don't really know how this whole thing works, like what players are good." And I'm like, "Oh yeah. I'd love to help. I'd love to help." Right. So that was kind of our her way into our first date. Of course, I get to her apartment. She has like the whole spreadsheet of right this receiver's stats, right this quarterback stats, the whole thing. She has a breakdown. So I'm telling her, "Oh yeah, like I think he'd be a good guy to draft." She's like, "Well, I don't think so because these were his numbers last year and this is what he's projected this year. So I'm gonna go this way." And so I'm like, "Yeah, you didn't need my help, did you? You just needed a reason to get me down here." So
It worked.
it worked.
So that is the story of how we met, the short version. If you want to know the long version, let us know. We'll happily do a long version video as well. And I know in there you did touch on a little bit of the military as well. I think it'd be an amazing idea to do another video on some of the military academy quirks because, y'all,
It's different.
some of the stories he tells me are
Different.
wild.
Yeah.
Just wild. So I think that would be awesome. But anyways, one of the next questions that we get from friends and family a lot is, why are you in Italy? How the heck are you living in Italy right now? So, because it's pretty much because of you, I'll let you answer that.
Okay, yeah. So for starters, Ken and I are both huge adventurers, right? We are a bit nomadic, just in the sense that, well, we both left home for college. We both love exploring. We both love traveling, right? So naturally, being overseas, being stationed in Europe was something that we were pretty excited about the opportunity to do. That being said, military assignments are, let's just say, you have some say, but at the end of the day, the Air Force is going to tell you where you're going to go. Let's just put it plainly. So we had an opportunity to list some bases that we'd like to be stationed at. We list them in the States, but at the top of our list, right, our preference, we listed that we wanted to either be in Italy or Germany. Because we've heard absolutely, and those are two of the most popular assignments in the Air Force. So we actually ended up getting stationed in Charleston, South Carolina, which is also very high on our list, right? So we're getting ready to get married that summer, right? We hired a realtor for Charleston. We're kind of setting our life up, right?
We had a house picked out.
Yeah, we had a house picked out. Like we were ready to roll. We had friends there, so it was perfect. We had accepted that was going to be the next 3 years of our life, the first 3 years of our marriage.
Yeah.
And so my squadron commander calls me and he says, "Hey, got some news about your assignment, good news and bad news," right? And so whenever someone says that, I'm kind of like, okay, what's going on? So I said, bad news first. He says, "Okay, bad news, Charleston's a no-go. You're not going anymore." And I said, "That's the bad news?" So I was like, "What's the good news then?" So he said, "So something rare happened, probably, won't happen again in your career, but the Air Force is giving you the choice between your top two choices of where you want to go." They said you can go to Germany or Italy, right? Which is like unheard of for military assignment matching. But they said we need to know in 24 hours. So we are, right, trying to reconfigure our life. We're trying to plan a wedding. And then we also have to make a decision in less than a day about, are we going to live in Germany for the next 3 years or Italy for the next 3 years? Champagne problems for sure, right?
Yes.
Champagne problems, right? We get that. But in the moment, it was pretty hectic. So we start calling everyone that we know who's been here.
Oh no. He pulled the whole, I'm working from home. It was COVID. And so I was teleworking and I get a text and he says, "We need to talk."
Bad move.
Now, ladies,
Bad move.
y'all can relate. The "we need to talk" text usually is never good. So I'm sitting here freaking out. I'm racking my brain about what did I do? Like, I haven't done anything that would have made him mad. Like, I don't know what's going on. And then he wasn't replying. So he sends that we need to talk. And then he just leaves me hanging, leaves me on red. And then he shows up home.
So that's a lot.
And he just walks in the door and I was like, oh my gosh, he's actually furious. Like, he came home from work to talk to me about something. And that's when he told me. So could have went about it a little bit different, but in hindsight, we just laughed about it.
Anyone
and
who
we
knows
had
me
to
knows
start.
that I don't get furious for anyone who knows me. Keep going. Sorry.
Yes. But then we, like you said, started calling everybody and sorry to interrupt you. Back to you.
Yeah. So we made the decision, right, that we were going to live in Italy for the next 3 years. So quickly kind of changed course, but it's not just like, okay, we're going to go to Italy, packed our bags, and then hop on a flight, right?
Jokes.
Like there are months worth of processes and preparations that you need to go through in order to live here, just because Italian laws are a little bit more strict. So that was a wild summer for us, getting married and preparing the PCS over here to Italy.
Yeah, so that is ultimately why we are in Italy. We do have about 1.5 years left, a little bit less, until our next adventure, which we'll keep you posted on that too.
Yeah.
We'll take you along on the journey. One of our popular questions always, we get this from friends, family, everybody. What is being in the military like? So I'm gonna let him answer, and then I will kind of answer in terms of being a military spouse and living in Italy after he goes.
Yeah. So like my wife said, right, we get this question all the time about, hey, like, what's military life like? Is it normal? Like, what's your normal day to day? Being in the military is fun. I'll say that it's always an adventure, right? You have very little control over where you go, kind of who you work with, even what your job might even be, right? But I'll say above all, it's a privilege. Like, it's an honor. You do something that very few people will ever say that they have the opportunity to do. So I take a lot of pride in that personally. The fact that we get to live in different parts of the world, right? We live this very transient life, if you will, right? And so the things that I've got to do and have the privilege to see has been pretty spectacular. So it's been a wild ride thus far, but we're enjoying it.
I'll talk a little bit more about living in Italy. Military life in Italy, I should say. There are a few pros and a few cons, but I'm also going to tie it in with one of the questions that we get a lot is, what the heck is life like in Italy? So as an American living in Italy, there has been a few different little culture shocks here and there. Our time here has been absolutely amazing, but I will preface that in saying there are going to be pros and cons to anywhere. And that's if you live in the States, if you live in Europe, if you live in Africa, et cetera, et cetera. But some of our favorite parts about living here, are the travel. We are 45 minutes away from 2 airports that go, all over the world. We are a couple hours away from Slovenia, Austria, a couple more hours from Germany, Croatia, Switzerland, France. So we are very blessed in that, let alone Italy. I mean, Italy itself is stunning. The food, the wine, the Prosecco. Maybe our bodies don't like that so much because you know what? I realized
my body loves it.
He loves it, my body loves it, but my soul loves it, my body does not. We'll say it in that. I realized you cannot eat pizza and pasta every day. Doesn't work very well. Those are a few of the positives, but some of the negatives, of course, do come, with just the culture shock of being in Italy. They obviously speak Italian, so English is their second, third, fourth language, if some even know it at all. So not only do we have to deal with a little bit of a language barrier at some times, but the main negative that I want to hit on, because really there's not that many negatives, for military spouses, which is why I'm combining it with the other question, is that military spouses are not allowed to work here unless it is on base for the government. So a lot of you have, been talking to us and like, oh, I had no idea that you're not working. It's not my choice. I had to quit. It's not an option here. Unfortunately, they are working on it with the Italian government. So hopefully we have an update soon. But we are not even allowed to telework, which is working remotely for a U.S. company right now. So, as spouses, it's been very hard. We build up this whole career only to have to quit. That being said, we have been able to travel. I've been our little travel planner, our little travel agent. And so, pros and cons. And so I actually do now have a job on base that I am working at for the past, I don't know, month or two, until teleworking is approved, or maybe I'll just stick with it. Who knows? But that is just one of the big negatives that I did want to hit on, because I know a lot of our family, or a lot of our friends, I should say, actually didn't realize that I wasn't working, or that I wasn't able to work. Not that I don't want to, it's a difference for sure. But yeah, we will do a whole other video too on differences in Italy in terms of housing. The Italian charm is real, but it also comes with some not so great charmful things, charming words. So that is a little bit on military spouse life, on life in Italy. So I do want to hop into the next question here, and that is going to be, what is our favorite and our least favorite parts about living in Italy? So I'm gonna let you answer first.
Okay. Favorite part, I mean, there are so many favorites, I would say, whether it's the food, the culture in general. I think that European cultures in general tend to be more, whether it's family oriented, people oriented, with culture surrounding food, music, right, dancing, people. So it's a very lighthearted environment, a lighthearted culture to be in. And that's country to country that we travel to, right? So for me, that, in addition to the people that you meet, oh my goodness. Everywhere we've been, without fail, we have met natives of that country they become our friends for life, right?
Yeah.
And that to me is the most beautiful part of traveling and kind of immersing yourself in a different culture.
Right.
Maybe the most challenging part for me, my wife won't agree with this, but I just think the time difference, right, brings about its own challenges, right? And the things that come to mind are, one, if you're trying to call family, right, or talk to family, talk to friends.
Oh, that's not your top. Let's get real.
Okay, 1A, 1B. It takes coordination, right? But then what Kenna will say is my top priority. It is not. It is a priority. It's not my top one. It makes watching sports pretty difficult over here, right? So especially for me as a West Coast guy, I'm a Lakers fan. Whether it's watching my Air Force Falcons or watching my USC Trojans, or my Eagles, who I know are on the East Coast, right, or my Dodgers, whatever it is, right? Like, to watch that game that came on at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. for you came on at 2 a.m. for me. Again, might seem small, but for me, it's a bit of an inconvenience.
Yes, it might seem small. Others might say we have plenty of other things to be doing. Like travel. That would be my favorite. I absolutely love living in Europe. We are able to hop on a train, for 20 euro and be in a new country. Yeah. So that is just, or even a $20 round trip flight, and we can be in a new country. We are so close to Africa. We're so close to everything in Europe. It's, very small compared to...
I want to pause it. That's not an exaggeration when she said 20 euro round trip flight. Like, I know some people will be like, oh, you're just like, that's legitimate, right? So
we'll tell you all of our tricks later. But travel, definitely my favorite. My least favorite, there's a couple things that come to mind. I don't have one that really stands out as the top one, but I will just say, every day that I drive, I have a little bit of a panic attack, whether it's, somebody driving not in their lane or very small, thin roads. Just freaks me out a little bit. We have, our American sized car over here. The European spec cars are a lot thinner, they're more narrow. And so there's definitely some interesting moments on the road over here. So again, very little. I don't think I have a very big thing that sticks out in my mind that I don't like about being here. I have two more questions that I will go through, and then we will wrap this up. So I will let you answer first. What do we miss about the States, if anything?
For me, that's an easy question for me. I am huge into breakfast.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, breakfast for me, I could eat breakfast 3 meals of the day. I could eat it for my snack, or I could eat it before bed. Whether it's big fluffy pancakes, waffles, French toast, omelets, I miss just good old classic American breakfast. That being said, right, so for those who don't know, breakfast in most European countries will consist of a brioche, which is a croissant, right, of some form, and then a cappuccino, right? So like, so that's probably why people here are a little bit more thin. But breakfast is not necessarily a major portion of your diet here. So I definitely, you just won't find places that serve big, diner style American breakfast. So that would definitely be my thing.
Mine, I have two. For those of you who know me, you already know what I'm gonna say. Number one, Chipotle. I miss Chipotle. We ate Chipotle probably twice a week back in Tampa, if not more, if we were feeling lazy. Clearly, maybe more. Two, I hate to say this, but Target. I miss Target. You can just go and everything is there. And even stuff that's not on your list, you just go and leave with, and it's so wonderful. Those are the things that I miss most. Of course, we miss our family, we miss our friends, but really, besides that, we really don't miss a lot. It is awesome being here. Once you find yourself removed from the States.
That's like such a white girl answer, like Chipotle and Target. I'm sorry, I had to say that. I love you. Keep going.
It drives me nuts sometimes. I don't even know what I was talking about, so I'm just going to move on to the next question. Going back to travel that we've mentioned so many times in this video, how many countries have we been to so far, and what has been your favorite?
So just frame of reference here. So we're when we said that we love travel, like we weren't joking about that. We're trying to get after it as best we can. So in about the 18 to 20 months that we've been here, we've been to 25 countries, which has been absolutely incredible. To pick a favorite, that's tough, right? Because Europe is so diverse. Not to mention, right, we've been to Africa as well, and that was stunning. My favorite country, though, has got to be Spain.
I love Spain.
You're right. That's kind of a given if you know me. Spanish culture to me is incredible. Whether it's the music, whether it's the food. I think the Spanish landscape, right, is absolutely beautiful. But then, come on, the people. Spanish people are so much fun. So much fun. That Latin culture, it's pretty remarkable. So every time I'm there, that's my happy place. I could live there, truly. And I would if I could. But yeah, for me, that's an easy one, Spain.
So mine, I am not going to talk too much about it because we are going to do a whole video on this.
Yes.
Because our trip was just so amazing. Mine is Morocco. Sorry, Europe. Africa is taking the lead. Again, not going to go into detail because we have a whole video coming at you soon about our entire Morocco trip. So I will leave it at that. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you watched this whole thing, thank you so much. We love you. We cannot wait to start sharing more with you. Again, hit that subscribe button. We will hopefully have more videos coming to you shortly. Also, you can catch more adventures on my Instagram and my TikTok. I will link those down below. But have a fantastic rest of your day, and thanks for tuning in. Bye.
See ya.